Terrorists strike Chinese workers in Pakistan. Janet Yellen and London Breed are planning to visit China. And Joe Biden is opening more lines of communication with a man he called a dictator. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark. Whenever you go online, you should be using a VPN like Surfshark to cover your tracks and protect your identity. I'll tell you more at the end. In a phone call, U.S. President Joe Biden spoke with Xi Jinping for the first time since November, because their relationship has been rocky. Not because they're like me and need a 5-month heads up before someone calls me. 11 months if it's FaceTime. Just text, you animals. Apparently the so-called check-in was an opportunity for them to talk about some tough issues and try to ensure that the two countries are responsibly managing their competition with each other. Did they say responsibly managing? This is the CCP we're talking about. Trusting communist China to behave responsibly is like trusting Lucy to let Charlie Brown actually kick the football. Let's just hope it isn't a nuclear football. Only a few months ago, Joe Biden accurately described Chinese President Xi Jinping as a dictator, which didn't go over well. Yet for whatever reason, he still thought now was a good time to call the Chinese president. On the docket, such tough and sensitive topics as China's support for Russia during its war in Ukraine, trade, Taiwan, election security, and tackling the fentanyl crisis in the U.S. Yep, the same fentanyl that China has been helping traffic into the U.S. But I'm sure this dictator will be a fair and open-minded negotiator. In another act of great wisdom, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is traveling to China for top-level economic talks. From April 3rd through 9th, Yellen will meet with several high-level officials. She may as well also meet with this brick wall because talks with it will have a better chance of actually being productive. Yellen will underscore how harmful Chinese industrial overcapacity is to the world economy. She'll also be visiting Beijing and Guangzhou to participate in a roundtable about China's economic issues. But wait, I thought China's economy was doing so well. Isn't that what Xi recently told U.S. business leaders and the Chinese media? Could a dictator also be a liar? If Yellen thinks joining a roundtable and giving a lecture about Chinese overproduction is going to change Beijing's policy, she's as gullible as Charlie Brown with that nuclear football. Yellen isn't the only U.S. figure to be visiting China. San Francisco Mayor London Breed is set to go on her second trip to China, hoping to promote tourism to her city. Because where else in the world but San Francisco can tourists experience the unbridled joy of stepping in poop on a sidewalk and thinking, I hope that was from a dog. But this sort of makes sense. Chinese tourists spent $1 billion a year in San Francisco prior to COVID-19. And San Francisco is in dire need of money and positive public promotion after its disastrous local economic and business policies have scared away businesses and tourism. The city is turning into a giant pile of crap that I hope was from a dog. Breed is hoping to come back with good news about China's giant pandas, maybe coming back to her city zoo. Last year, San Francisco lost out to the San Diego Zoo on the panda front. Those pandas got lucky if you ask me. I'd also rather be tanning myself on the sandy San Diegan beaches instead of needing panda rehab after getting hooked on fentanyl. Those glasses are covering their bloodshot eyes. Not to be outdone in brown-nosing China, New York City Mayor Eric Adams decided to skip a banquet that was being held in honor of Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen. Was it food poisoning? No, it was Chinese consulate poisoning. According to the National Review, the Chinese Consul General urged that the city government avoid any kind of official contact with Tsai when she is in New York City. And Adams did as he was told because, you see, New York City's friendship with China was being put at risk. And we couldn't have that now, could we? And after the break, a terrorist attack on China. Welcome back. The U.S. and China are competing for influence in southern Asia. And it looks like China is gaining ground. A survey of people living in the countries of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, showed that if forced to choose, 50.5% of people preferred to be aligned with Beijing compared to 49.5% who preferred Washington. This is a stark reverse from last year when just under 40% preferred to be close to China, while over 60% chose the U.S. Why? I mean, I knew Madam Web was bad, but I didn't think it was that bad. In an unusual move, the Indonesian defense minister, also the president-elect, made a visit to Beijing for a meeting with Xi Jinping. He hasn't even been inaugurated yet. In the meeting, he made it clear that he wants to strengthen ties with China. 2 days later, he promised the same to Japan, China's historic rival and a close U.S. ally. Foreign ministers from Laos, Vietnam, and East Timor have also started arriving in Beijing for their own visits. I wonder if San Francisco is like, man, how come Beijing is getting all the tourism? It's the poop. Meanwhile, the CCP is trying to add Southeast Asia to its Belt and Road Initiative through high-speed railway connections. Here's how CNN describes the scenario. Imagine jumping on a train in southwestern China, traveling some 2,000 miles, and arriving in Singapore less than 30 hours later. Okay, I'll play along. I'm imagining infrastructure built by China. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll take a little more than 30 hours. Washington, meanwhile, is making moves of its own. The State Department came out condemning China's territorial ambitions on the Indian-Chinese disputed frontier in the Himalayas. China was furious, especially since Washington and New Delhi are expanding amphibious military cooperation. Very valuable when it comes to the Himalayas. The U.S. and China have been at odds over Taiwan and the South China Sea for a long time now. So long, I've been talking about it since before I could grow this glorious beard. The last thing China wants is for the U.S. to provide more support for India, which Washington has been courting for years. And speaking of India, China's own bid to court its nemesis, Pakistan, isn't working out so well. A terrorist attack in northwestern Pakistan killed 5 Chinese workers and their local driver. China's been drawing Pakistan into its Belt and Road Initiative through operating a series of railways, dams, and ports throughout the country. This attack in the northwestern region puts at serious risk China's efforts to connect to the strategic port of Gwadar. It's almost as big a risk to China's efforts as China's efforts themselves. In response, China has halted work on 3 dams in the country.
Chinese companies have suspended work on not 1, not 2, but on 3 dams in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa.
Since Pakistan is already bankrupt and in turmoil since basically forever, this is bound to hurt even more. Not to worry though, because Xinhua is reporting that Chinese volunteers are helping poor Pakistanis by giving them food for the iftar meal, which breaks the Ramadan fast. I'm sure that'll make all the difference for those poor Pakistani workers who lost their jobs with the failed dam projects. It's like that old expression, give a man a fish, he should be thankful for the rest of his life. Now shut up and quit complaining. But this just goes to show how tolerant the CCP is toward other faiths. Oh, just kidding, because the CCP is actually cracking down on Ramadan. Specifically, party committees, governments, and education departments at all levels were required to comprehensively investigate and strictly prohibit Muslim members of the Communist Party of China and minors from participating in religious activities such as fasting. Wait, the Chinese Communist Party doesn't want people fasting? Well, that's a first, because not eating is kind of communism's MO. I guess this year there won't be any breaking bread with those who share differing beliefs in China. The CCP will settle for breaking bones instead. And after the break, an earthquake has rattled Taiwan. Welcome back. The CCP is investigating PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP, better known as PwC, in connection with Evergrande's historic $78 billion fraud. China's securities regulator has accused Evergrande of vastly overstating its revenue and inflating sales in 2019 to 2020, just before it defaulted. And longtime viewers, hey, good looking, are already familiar with how the real estate crisis has significantly affected China's economy, at the same time as the disastrous zero-COVID policy harmed Chinese economic growth. The CCP can't have that because lying about how well you're doing to try and trick businesses into working with you is their grift. Go get your own, Evergrande. But it looks like there's even more of a bad forecast for China than just the failing economy. Violent storms in China's eastern Jiangxi province has resulted in the death of 7 people, including 3 who were blown out of their apartments. Heavy winds, rain, and hail also flattened 14,000 acres of crop fields and damaged so many homes that 800 people had to be relocated. But mainland China isn't the only place dealing with natural disasters. Taiwan just got hit by its strongest recorded earthquake in a quarter of a century. It triggered tsunami warnings in Japan and the Philippines. It also disrupted travel in mainland China right at the start of the Qingming Festival. China's so-called Taiwan Affairs Office said it was highly concerned by the earthquake and offered to provide humanitarian relief. But given that this is the CCP we're talking about, I'm not sure if I would trust that offer if I were Taiwan. Who knows what kind of strings could be attached? 9 people have died in the earthquake so far, with 50 more missing. Meanwhile, Chinese ships and warplanes started flying around the island shortly after Xi's phone call with Biden. This came despite the fact that Biden reportedly took Xi to task for his policies on supporting Iran and threatening Taiwan. You know, Xi wants to prove what a tough guy he is. Instead of doing another stupid military drill, why doesn't he get his no-limits partner Putin to share his workout routine with him? Those guns are way more impressive. Chinese media also spread rumors that the Taiwanese president, Tsai Ing-wen, has plans to flee to the U.S. should China invade. Meanwhile, China is welcoming a former Taiwanese president, Ma Ying-jeou, to Beijing in an effort to broker peace talks on cooperation. So let me get this straight. The CCP has a phone call with President Biden to show it's behaving responsibly and offers Taiwan aid after an earthquake, all while continuing to threaten the island. Then meets its former leader to talk peace? Glad I got that right. I'm just hoping that football Xi is holding isn't a nuclear one. Now hold on to your horses, because I got a video to show you that will blow your mind. But first, this episode is sponsored by Surfshark. When you go online, everything you do is potentially compromised unless you're taking active steps to protect yourself. No matter where you live, no matter what you do online, you should always be keeping your internet activity private with a VPN like Surfshark, especially when you're doing things like logging into your bank account or credit card online. If you ever used shared Wi-Fi, you're in danger. Even low-rent hackers can steal your password without you even knowing. And when you travel, especially overseas, you might need a VPN that makes it look like you're in your home country just to log into your accounts. So it saves a huge potential hassle. And you can install it on as many devices as you want, even on your Amazon Fire TV stick. You know, if you want to make it appear like you're logged in from a different country so you can access all the good Netflix shows that are geo-blocked. So seriously, check out Surfshark. Go to surfshark.com/uncensored to get up to 3 additional months for free. That's surfshark.com/uncensored and use the code uncensored. The link is in the description. And here is that video I want to show you. It's from my new show, Deep Thoughts While Gaming, where I hide controversial topics in gaming content, and this one is about RimWorld, a game where you can harvest the organs of prisoners. China's not going to like it, but I hope you do. Let me know what you think. I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.